The first pantry door hit the kitchen floor just as the bottom of my grocery bag gave out. A jar of olives rolled under Grant's feet. He stepped over it without looking at me. His mother stood inside my pantry in cream slacks and disposable shoe covers, directing two men as if she were conducting an orchestra. "Careful with that maple," Lenore said. "Someone may be able to reuse it." The cabinetmaker, Ellis Ward, had a pry bar braced against the first built-in frame. "Do not touch that wall," I said. Grant rubbed the back of his neck. "Mara, let's not make this harder." Lenore pointed toward the ceiling. "The open shelves will carry the eye upward." "Grant." He finally faced me. "Do exactly what Mom wants," he told Ellis. Ellis shifted his grip. Then his eyes landed on the renovation drawings spread across my kitchen counter. He saw the initials written beside every approved measurement, MB. Instead of striking, he lowered the bar and turned to me. "Mrs. Bell," he said carefully, "are you withdrawing your authorization for us to touch this room?" Grant had been my husband for 9 years. I still did not know which answer he expected. "Yes," I said, "I am." For a moment, the only sound was the refrigerator motor and olives settling beneath the cabinets. One of the laborers slowly lowered the maple door he was holding. The other took 2 steps backward, as if I had announced there was a gas leak. Lenore gave Ellis a look I had seen her use on waiters who brought lemon instead of lime. It was never openly rude. Lenore considered open rudeness an admission that you had lost control. "My son owns this house," she said. Ellis rested the pry bar against his thigh. He was in his late 50s, broad through the shoulders, with gray hair that always seemed to carry a little sawdust even when he was clean. The work order references the original renovation plans. Mrs. Bell is the client of record on those plans. "The house came from my family." "I don't handle family. I handle authorization." That was Ellis. He could make a sentence sound like a locked drawer. Grant bent to retrieve the olives. He placed the jar on the counter too hard. "Mara, Mom is paying." "For what?" Lenore stepped out of the pantry. Her shoe covers whispered over the oak floor. A refresh. One maple door lay flat between us. The hinges had been unscrewed, but a corner had chipped when it fell. I could see the pale wound in the wood. "A refresh," I repeated. "The pantry is overly enclosed. It makes the kitchen seem smaller in photographs." "What photographs?" Grant glanced toward his mother. It was quick, a fraction of a second. In 9 years, I had learned that Grant looked at the person whose answer he wanted to borrow. Lenore folded her hands. "The Home Heritage Quarterly photographer is coming Friday." "Friday." "For our anniversary dinner." "Your anniversary dinner that I'm hosting." "That we are all hosting," she corrected. "It's a family occasion." I looked at the grocery bag split across the floor. 3 cans of tomatoes had rolled beneath the breakfast table. The parsley was crushed under a bottle of club soda. I had bought the olives because Lenore had texted me at 7 that morning to remind me Arthur preferred Castelvetranos with cocktails. Her husband could not tell green olives from green grapes without his glasses. "How were you planning to demolish the pantry on Tuesday and have a new one ready by Friday?" Lenore smiled at Ellis as though presenting him with an opportunity to agree. Mr. Ward assured us his crew could prioritize the work. Ellis didn't blink. I assured Mr. Bell I could remove the existing cabinetry by tomorrow. I didn't quote fabrication or installation of the replacement. Grant frowned. "You said you'd fit us in." "For demolition." A flush crept up Grant's throat. He hated being corrected in front of his mother. He could survive being wrong or witnessed, but not both. Lenore turned her disappointment on him. "You told me this was arranged." "It is arranged. There was obviously a misunderstanding." "I understood," Ellis said. I almost laughed. It came out as a breath sharp enough that Grant heard it. He walked toward me, palms lowered in the calming gesture he used with difficult clients. Grant designed retail interiors for people who wanted a bakery to feel like rural France or a dental office to feel like a spa. He was good at showing people empty rooms and describing the feelings he could sell back to them. "Mara, can we talk in the den?" "No, Ellis, please put the door back. We can do that." "How long?" He crouched to inspect the chipped corner. "2 hinges are bent. I can secure it today and bring replacements tomorrow. The chip needs filling." Lenore's mouth tightened. "Send me the invoice." "No," I said. "Send it to Grant." Grant's calming palms dropped. "Seriously?" "You authorized the damage." "I authorized an improvement to our house." "You didn't ask me. We've been talking for months about opening up the kitchen." Lenore nodded. "You complain that people bottleneck at the pantry door during parties." I said Arthur stands in doorways. Ellis coughed into his fist. I knew him well enough to recognize the effort involved. Arthur was Lenore's third husband, and a gentle, distractible man who could begin telling you about municipal bonds while reaching for an ice cube and remain stationed in front of the freezer until spring. I liked him. He had perfected the art of leaving a room emotionally while his body remained polite. Lenore removed her shoe covers one at a time. "I won't stay where I am treated like an intruder." The back door was 6 feet behind her. She did not move toward it. "You arrived with a demolition crew," I said. "I arrived with professionals. There is a difference." "Mara." Grant's voice had changed, softer, now that anger hadn't worked. "Mom is trying to do something nice for us. She's trying to tear out a room I designed. It's cabinets." Ellis looked down at his pry bar. Lenore didn't. "And very pretty cabinets. No one has criticized your taste. But this house has an architectural history. Your choices should be in conversation with it." "I'm sorry my pull-out shelf didn't consult the ancestors." That did make Ellis cough. Grant shot me a warning look. Enough. The word was quiet. That was what made it land. In the first years of our marriage, Grant had been amused by the way I answered his mother. He used to squeeze my knee beneath Lenore's dinner table when she described cilantro as aggressive or called a hotel new money. Somewhere along the way, he had stopped squeezing my knee and started asking why I always had to provoke her. Lenore collected her handbag from the counter. It was sitting on top of my binder of catering notes. "The article is about the preservation of significant family homes," she said. "I wanted the kitchen to honor Grant's grandfather's intention. His intention was apparently not having heat upstairs. That was deferred maintenance. So was the roof. Still is." Grant stared at me. I had said it because I was angry. The second it was in the room, I understood it mattered more than the cabinets. Lenore slid the catering binder from beneath her bag and aligned it with the edge of the counter. "That is being handled." "How?" Grant picked up the tomatoes. "One can, then another." "We'll talk tonight." Lenore looked at him again. This time he didn't meet her eye. There it was, another room inside the room. Ellis began directing his men to reinstall the door temporarily. One laborer went to the truck for longer screws. The other gathered packing blankets that had been laid across the pantry floor. They had expected to carry my shelves away without leaving scratches. Someone had planned every detail except telling me. I moved past Grant and into the pantry. The bottom pull-out stood open. Inside were baking trays arranged vertically by size, exactly where they had been since Ellis installed them 3 years earlier. The maple worktop was dusted with grit from the removed hinges. One of Lenore's contractors had set a foam coffee cup beside the brass scoop I kept in a glass jar of rice. I picked up the scoop and brushed white dust from its handle with my thumb. Grant leaned against the doorway. "Can we please stop performing for the contractors?" Ellis, 3 feet away, said, "We can come back." "No," Grant said. "Yes," I said at the same time. Ellis nodded to me. He told his crew to secure the door, clean the floor, and wait outside. Lenore kissed the air beside Grant's cheek. "Call me when this is productive." She left through the back door. I heard the dead bolt turn behind her. Grant waited until the crew's boots crossed the patio. Then he came into the pantry and pulled the door nearly closed, leaving it crooked on one good hinge. "Why do you do that?" he asked. I put the scoop back into the rice. "Stop people from tearing apart my house?" Humiliate me in front of vendors. Ellis isn't your vendor. He does work for my studio. He did this house first. And who introduced you to him? Your former business partner who fired you from a coffee shop project because you missed 3 site meetings. Grant's jaw flexed. I rarely used old facts as weapons. That meant he hadn't learned to defend against them. He turned toward the shelves, studying them as though he had only just noticed what a pantry contained. I should have told you. Yes. Mom got excited about the article. She thinks it could help the studio. Is the article about the studio? Not officially, but my work on the restoration will be mentioned. Your work. Our work, you know what I mean. I did. He meant his work when other people were looking and our work when an invoice was due. He reached for my hand. There was sawdust on his fingers from the fallen door. I moved to close the flower bin before he could touch me. It was supposed to be a surprise, he said. You know that sentence doesn't improve when the surprise is demolition. Mom has a designer. Of course she does. She showed me the renderings. It's not bad, Mara. Glass fronts, antique brass, a small wine refrigerator. The open shelves actually echo the framing in the sunroom. Where are the dry goods supposed to go? We'd edit. We? His gaze moved over the jars of rice, beans, oats, coffee, and pasta. No one needs this much stuff. The coffee was his. The pasta was his. The crackers Lenore ate with goat cheese every Sunday were his. 3 jars held specialty flours I used twice a month to make bread for dinners I did not request. I opened the pantry door. Go back to work, Grant. He stayed where he was. This is exactly the reaction Mom was afraid of. Something in me went still. Not because Lenore had been afraid of my reaction. She routinely predicted my reactions, then behaved as if prediction were permission. But Grant had known. They had discussed how I would feel. My objection had not been overlooked. It had been budgeted for. How long have you been planning this? It wasn't planning. She sent ideas. When? He looked toward the kitchen clock. I don't know. Last week. Before or after I confirmed the caterer for Friday? What does that have to do with anything? Before or after? Before. I nodded. He exhaled impatiently. Don't turn this into some giant referendum on our marriage. I'm trying to understand the schedule. You always say that when you're building a case. I'm asking whether you let me spend my weekend planning your mother's dinner while the 2 of you plan to dismantle the room I'd be cooking from. The caterer is doing the cooking. I designed the menu, I arranged the rentals, I cleared the delivery window with the gate contractor. I ordered the wine your mother chose after rejecting the first 2 cases. I'm making breakfast for 6 people Saturday because she invited them to stay over after the article. Arthur booked the hotel. After I called him. That's what I mean. Grant spread his hands. You take over every detail, then resent everyone for relying on you. It was close enough to something true that I could not dismiss it. That was Grant's best move. He never needed to invent a lie when he could take a truth and turn it 3 degrees. I looked beyond him at the kitchen. The grocery bag still lay open on the floor. I'm going back to the studio, he said. We'll talk when we've both calmed down. How is your mother paying for the roof? He stopped. I waited. Grant rubbed the side of his nose. She offered to help. With the house or the studio? It's all connected right now. No, it isn't. The studio had a soft quarter. We've got 2 projects starting next month, but the deposits are delayed. Mom offered to cover the roof so I wouldn't have to take another draw. And in exchange? There is no exchange. Then why did my pantry need to disappear by Friday? It doesn't need to disappear. He glanced at the crooked door. Obviously, you won. I had never felt less like I had won anything. He stepped past the groceries and grabbed his keys from the bowl near the door. The bowl was a heavy piece of green glass we had bought the first month we lived there, when we still thought every shared object proved permanence. I'll call you later, he said. Don't. He paused, but only for a second. The back door shut behind him. I stood in the kitchen until Ellis tapped on the glass. He had the damaged door secured well enough to close. We went over the repair, and he showed me the original drawings on the counter. My initials appeared 19 times, beside the wood selection, shelf depths, electrical placement, clearances, and final installation. Grant's signature appeared once on the first page. "Did he tell you I approved this?" I asked. Ellis took off his glasses. "He said it was a family decision." "That isn't what I asked." "No," he said. "He didn't say you approved it." He tapped the initials with one blunt fingernail. "That's why I asked." After he left, I put away the groceries. I threw out the parsley, washed the dust from the brass scoop, and returned every jar to its labeled place. Then I opened the catering binder. Friday's schedule filled 3 pages in my handwriting. Deliveries, flowers, linens, wine, breakfast, access codes, dietary notes. At the bottom was Lenore's latest edition. Photographer needs unobstructed kitchen from 3/5. I removed the page. My phone lit up with a message from Lenore. "I trust Grant will help you regain perspective." Before I could answer, I heard metal scrape softly against the back lock. The door opened, and Lenore stepped inside to retrieve the shoe covers she had left on the counter. I had never given her a key. Lenore looked down at the key still in the lock, then back at me. "Oh," she said. "This." There were moments when I almost admired her. A lesser person might have pretended the door had been open. "Give it to me." She removed the key and held it between 2 manicured fingers. A small round tag hung from the ring, marked Glass House in Grant's handwriting. "Grant gave it to me for emergencies." "What emergency happened just now?" "I left something. The disposable shoe covers. They're reusable. Give me the key, Lenore." She set her handbag on the counter again. "You are very activated today." "And you're inside my house after I watched you leave." "Our house was always open to family. This isn't your house." Her eyes changed. Not much, but enough. Lenore could tolerate being denied an object more easily than a claim. "I was speaking historically." "Historically, did you have a key?" Grant thought it was sensible. "What if a pipe burst while you were away?" "Then the house would be lucky you'd brought a pry bar." She gave me a tired smile. "You're determined to make everything ugly." I held out my hand. Lenore laid the key in my palm, but did not release it immediately. The brass edge pressed into my skin. "Grant does not need your permission to give his mother access." "No," I said. "But he needs to understand what it costs." She let go. I expected satisfaction. Instead, the key felt strangely warm, as if I had taken it from a running engine. Lenore picked up the shoe covers. "You should think carefully before punishing your husband for accepting help." "Is that how you describe the roof?" "Grant told you?" "He told me you offered." Her disappointment was almost maternal, though not toward me. Grant had failed to preserve the order in which she wanted the truth delivered. "The studio has been under pressure," she said. "Your roof can't wait another season. I have the means to solve both problems. And all you want is a pantry." "I want the house represented properly. Grant understands that visibility matters. The article could bring him clients." "Then photograph the studio." "The studio is currently not photographable." It was the nicest way I had ever heard anyone describe a converted warehouse with a leaking bathroom and $6,000 worth of sample chairs. Lenore hooked the shoe covers over one finger. "You and I want the same thing. We want Grant secure. I don't understand why you insist on treating me like an adversary." "Because you entered my house with workmen to remove something I built. You coordinated it. You didn't build it. There it was. Not loud, not vulgar, perfectly tailored." I closed my fingers around the key. "Goodbye, Lenore." She took the long route around the island, then paused at the back door. "The photographer has a flight booked." "Then I hope the airport is beautiful." When she left, I locked the door behind her and called a locksmith. He could not come until the next morning, but he talked me through deleting the extra user code from the alarm panel. Grant had created it 7 months earlier. The code was Lenore's anniversary date. I stood in the hall with my phone against my ear and watched the little name disappear from the screen. Lenore Bell. User deleted. The system beeped once and returned to ready. It was the first thing all day that did exactly what I asked. I spent the next hour on calls. The caterer's cancellation fee was 20%. The florist could cancel without charge if I did it before 4. The rental company had already loaded some of the glassware, but they could redirect it if Lenore gave them another address. Each person asked some version of, "Should we contact Mrs. Bell directly?" "Yes," I said. It became easier by the 4th time. I did not cancel the anniversary dinner. It wasn't mine to cancel. I removed my name, my card, my schedule, and my house from it. The wine was different. I had paid for 2 cases after Lenore rejected the first order, and the store would not take back special selections. I carried the bottles into the pantry and lined them along the bottom shelf where the proposed wine refrigerator would have gone. Then I sent one message to Lenore and Grant together. I am no longer hosting Friday. The house is unavailable for the dinner, photography, deliveries, or overnight guests. I have given each vendor Lenore's contact information. The wine already purchased is here and will remain here unless I'm reimbursed by Thursday. Grant called before the message showed as read. I let it ring. He called again. The 3rd time, I answered. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Putting away groceries." I just got a call from Celia at the catering company. She's very efficient. "You canceled Mom's dinner?" "No, I stopped hosting it." "You can't make that decision by yourself." I just did. There was a door shutting on his end, then the hollow quiet of the studio conference room. "This is my house, too." "Then come home and host. You know I have work." "So do I. You work from a laptop." It was an old argument, one he usually had the sense not to make. I consulted on procurement and operations for boutique hotels. My laptop had paid for the pantry, most of the renovation, and more months of his studio payroll than his employees knew. "I'm hanging up now," I said. "Wait, Mom says you took her key." "Your mother opened our locked door after leaving." "She came back for something." "I know. I was here for the shoe cover emergency." "She was upset." "She can be upset outside." He made a sound that might have been a laugh in another marriage. "Mara, the key isn't a conspiracy. I gave it to her when we went to Savannah." "That was 7 months ago." "I forgot she had it." "You created an alarm code for her." Silence. I looked at the green glass key bowl, his spare car key, 2 luggage keys, and an old studio fob rested inside it. The house key was still in my fist. "Did you go through the alarm settings?" he asked. "I deleted a user who doesn't live here." "You're acting like Mom broke in. She arranged demolition while I was at the grocery store. She knocked first. That was so stupid I had to sit down." Grant lowered his voice. "I can't do this right now. Tessa's waiting for me." "Good. Before you go, I'm not doing the studio books tonight." "You said you would." "I also said I was hosting Friday. Plans change. Mara, payroll closes tomorrow. Then you should get started. You know I don't have the reconciliations. They're in the shared drive. They aren't finished." "No, I was going to finish them tonight." Another silence. This one was different. I could hear him calculating how many hours of my time stood between him and a problem. "I'll be home at 6, he said. "We'll talk like adults." "I have a client call at 6. "After. I'm not discussing the pantry until the door is repaired." "This isn't about the door." "I know." I ended the call. At 5:40, Tessa called. She'd been Grant's partner for 4 years and could make a linen blazer look military. We got along best when we were discussing anyone except Grant. "I don't want to get in the middle of whatever this is," she said, which was how people announced their exact location in the middle. "Then don't." "Payroll is not marital collateral." "Agreed. Grant says you're refusing to release the reconciliations. They're in the shared drive. I'm refusing to donate my evening to finishing them. You handle them every month. I handle them as a favor." "I thought you were paid." I swiveled my chair away from the pantry door. No. Tessa went quiet. Not at all? The studio pays the accounting software subscription. I do the prep, then your accountant files. He told me you preferred it that way because it simplified your household taxes. I closed my eyes. Grant did not lie often. He curated. I'm sure he did, I said. I can finish them, she said after a moment. I need you to tell me where the vendor credits are entered. The procedure is in a folder labeled month end. There's a procedure. Yes. You wrote a procedure for a favor. I like procedures. I know you do. Her voice softened, and for one hopeful second, I thought the truth had moved her. Then she said, He's been drowning, Mara. This is a rough time to make a point. There are people who see a man drowning and never ask who has been holding him above water. I'm not making a point, I said. I'm taking back my Tuesday. Grant came home at 8:17 carrying takeout from my favorite Thai place and an arrangement of white flowers too tall for any vase we owned. He had brought the flowers without water. By the time he found a stock pot deep enough to hold them, they leaned over the rim like exhausted socialites. I got the noodles with the wide ones, he said. You mean wide noodles? That's what I said. We ate at the kitchen island because the pantry door would not close flush, and every time I looked toward the dining room, I saw its crooked edge. Grant avoided it. He told me about a hotel lobby Tessa wanted to bid on. I told him the locksmith was coming at 9. He said fine, then asked if I wanted more noodles. For 11 minutes, we performed marriage with impressive technical skill. Finally, he put down his fork. Mom found a venue. Good. The studio. I pictured Lenore's guests balancing champagne near Grant's material library, while the photographer worked around ceiling pipes and Tessa's rowing machine. Good, I said again. It's not ideal. No. The caterer needs a loading contact. The building manager needs insurance paperwork. Mom doesn't understand any of it. That sounds difficult. Grant pushed his plate away. Can you just help with the transition? No, I'm not asking you to host. You're asking me to do everything except stand in the photographs. That's unfair. It's precise. He rubbed both hands over his face. When he lowered them, he looked older. I hated that I noticed. I hated more that some part of me wanted to fix that, too. Mom has spent months arranging this article, he said. Arthur's excited. The guests have travel plans. The photographer has a flight. There are commitments beyond our argument. Then the people who made those commitments can manage them. She made them because she thought she could count on us. She can count on you. You know I'm terrible at this stuff. Grant smiled faintly when he said it, offering me the old joke. For years, his helplessness had been flirtation. I was the one who knew which train, which form, which key. He was the one who made a wrong turn charming. I didn't smile back. He reached across the island. One last time. Help me get through Friday and then we deal with everything. The key, the pantry, the boundaries, all of it. You already asked me for one last time last tax season. That was different. And before the Lancaster project, I was sick. You had a sinus infection. It was a severe sinus infection. Despite myself, I laughed once. Grant's shoulders loosened, and I saw how quickly he mistook warmth for surrender. He took my hand. There you are. I pulled it away. His face closed. I'm not doing the dinner, I said. So you're really going to let me fail to prove you matter. I'm going to let you host your mother's party. That's not what this is about. What is it about? He looked at the pantry then, finally. You built one room, Mara. You didn't build the whole life. The flowers shifted in their stock pot. One white bloom slid loose and dropped onto the counter between us. Grant stared at it. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Everything you did in this house was for both of us. Yes. So stop talking like I stole it from you. You gave your mother permission to destroy it. It's replaceable. I waited for him to hear himself. He didn't. It's shelves and wood, he said. You built it for me as much as you built it for yourself. I looked at the meal he had brought, the flowers I would have to trim, the plate he would leave beside the sink. He was not trying to hurt me. That was the unbearable part. He was telling me, plainly and without cruelty, what he believed marriage had made of my work. His. I carried my plate to the dishwasher. The next morning, after the locksmith changed the cylinders, I opened the household account on my laptop. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, cleaning service, grocery deliveries, landscaping, alarm monitoring. Most were charged automatically to my personal card or drafted from the joint account after deposits I made. Grant deposited a round number on the first of each month. It had not changed in 4 years. I removed my card from the grocery service. I moved the utilities and household vendors to the joint account. Then I set an automatic transfer for exactly half the mortgage and half the insurance. A red warning appeared beside the projected balance. Insufficient funds likely. I left it there. At 10, Ellis arrived with the new hinges. As he repaired the chipped corner, I washed the brass scoop and set it on a towel beside the sink. "You want me to sand the mark out completely?" he asked. I looked at the pale notch Lenore's demolition had left in the maple. "No," I said. "Fill it so it won't spread. Leave the shape." Ellis nodded as if that made perfect sense. By noon, the pantry door hung straight again. The scar remained visible near the bottom hinge, small enough to miss unless you knew where to look. The grocery service sent Grant a notification that evening. He found me in the pantry transferring coffee into its glass jar. "Why was the delivery canceled?" I removed my card. "We're out of seltzer." "There's tap water." He stared at me, waiting for the version of myself who would hear how absurd this was and fix it. I slid the coffee jar into place. "Are you going to itemize the toilet paper next?" "If necessary. That's financial control." "Buying your own seltzer?" "Unilaterally changing how the household operates to punish me." I picked up the brass scoop. "You gave away access to our house without telling me. You authorized demolition without telling me. You committed my labor to an event without asking me. But changing the payment card on groceries is unilateral." I've been writing things down. "What things?" "These conversations, changes you've made, the locksmith." Grant leaned against the maple worktop, trying to look reluctant about the threat he had just delivered. I measured coffee into the grinder. "Write down that your mother's key worked." "I'm trying to protect myself." "From what?" His mouth opened, then closed. That was when I understood he did not have an answer yet. He was collecting evidence for a future explanation in which he would be the reasonable person. He would decide what I had done to him after he saw what it cost. "Friday is handled," he said. "You'll be pleased to hear that." "I am." "You don't sound pleased." I'm learning not to donate enthusiasm either. The anniversary dinner at the studio produced its first emergency at 3:20 Friday afternoon. Grant called twice. Lenore called 5 times. At 3:40, Arthur sent a picture of a refrigerated van parked in an alley beside a locked loading door. "Do you happen to know who lets them in?" I sent him the building manager's number, which was listed on the studio website, and returned to my work. At 4:10, Tessa texted. "Insurance certificate?" I sent back. "The caterer has one." At 4:11, caterer says venue needs to request specific language. I typed, "Grant has the building policy," then deleted it. If I told them where the policy was stored, I would also need to tell them the insured name, the certificate holder, and which email the building manager actually read. I wrote, "Then the venue should request it." At 5, Arthur sent another picture. The refrigerated van was gone. A delivery man was carrying silver chafing dishes through the front entrance, while Lenore stood in the background pointing with both hands. "Progress," he wrote. I liked his message and put my phone face down. Grant came home after 1 a.m, smelling of white wine and the studio's cedar room spray. He dropped his jacket on the bedroom chair. "How was it?" I asked. He looked surprised that I was awake. "Fine." "Good." Mom had to move the dinner downstairs to the bakery because the building manager wouldn't allow open flame service. "The dental bakery or rural France?" "What?" Nothing. The photographer left before dinner. He sat on the edge of the bed and removed one shoe. She got some shots of the studio. Then it wasn't a total loss. The article is about the house. There are pictures of the house. Old ones. Before the renovation was fully finished. His other shoe landed harder. I closed my book. What do you want me to say? I want you to understand that this wasn't just Mom showing off. It could have helped me. Then you should have managed it. I spent the entire night managing it. Yes. You think this is funny? No, I think this is what my life has felt like while you were enjoying dinner. His face went blank in the way it did when he understood an argument intellectually, but refused to let it enter his body. The photographer can come back next week, he said. The house is still unavailable. That's not solely your decision. He slept in the den. Monday morning, the mortgage payment bounced. I was on a call when the bank alert appeared, red and concise. I muted myself, opened the account, and saw a balance of $43.18. The withdrawal history told the story in 2 lines. Grant had transferred money to the studio's operating account Thursday afternoon. Friday morning, he had paid a deposit to Merit Architectural Interiors. I knew the name. They produced the glossy glass front kitchens Lenore saved in magazines. I ended my call early. Grant answered on the second ring. I'm walking into a presentation. You emptied the household account. I had to cover the lease. And Merit Interiors? A refundable deposit. For the pantry. For preliminary fabrication drawings. The drawings you already had made without me. Mom wanted to preserve the production slot. With our mortgage money, she's reimbursing it. When? When we settle the article. The roof, the studio, the article, the pantry. Lenore had made them one problem, and Grant kept using the same answer for all of them. Later. The mortgage bounced, I said. You can cover it. I could. He knew exactly which account held my consulting income and roughly how much was there. Enough for the payment, the late fee, and the next roof leak. I'm not going to. Mara, this is our credit. It was our mortgage money. The lease was 48 hours from default. Then you should have told Tessa. She would have overreacted. Your business partner would have reacted to the business running out of money. I'm handling it. I looked at the $43. No, I said, you're relocating it. He lowered his voice. Pay the mortgage. I will replace everything when Mom transfers the money. What has she asked you to sign? Silence again. Grant, it's a simple family use agreement. I stood so quickly my chair rolled into the wall. What does that mean? It means she can use the house for certain events. Anniversaries, family dinners, photography. She wants assurances before putting money into a property she doesn't own. She already acted like she owned it for free. It's limited. Send it to me. I'm not discussing this while you're in attack mode. Did you sign it? I have to go. He disconnected. I did not pay the mortgage. Instead, I called the bank, learned the length of the grace period, and asked what happened if only half the payment was received. The answer was nothing useful. Mortgages did not recognize marital symbolism. I paid my half into the household account anyway. The balance looked less frightening and no more solvent. Then I called Tessa. She answered with, "If this is about Friday, I have already died once." Grant transferred studio money from our household account Thursday. He what? He said the lease was about to default. The humor left her voice. How much? I told her. That's not what he deposited. What do you mean? Only part of that hit operating. The rest went to a cabinet company. Jesus, Merit Interiors, Lenore's Pantry. Mara, I need to call you back. She did not call back until Tuesday afternoon. I owe you an apology, she said. I waited. I thought you were pulling support to force his hand. I was pulling my unpaid work. I understand the distinction now. She sounded exhausted. Behind her, I could hear drawers opening and closing. Grant told me the deposits from Morton Hotels were delayed, she continued. They weren't. They were never invoiced. I sent him the invoice package 3 weeks ago. I found it in his downloads. Of course she had. Grant's digital filing system consisted of downloading a document and believing the computer had accepted responsibility. I also found your monthly corrections, she said. Vendor credits, late fees you had reversed, the duplicate chair order last winter. He said the vendor duplicated it. He placed it twice. I sat at my desk and watched rain gather on the glass wall of the sunroom. Tessa continued. There are emails from Lenore recommending suppliers. 3 of them quoted above market. You flagged them. I flagged everyone above market. I know, that's the point. There was no triumph in being proven necessary. Mostly it felt like finding out the leak in the ceiling had shaped the bucket. What happens now? I asked. I removed Grant's sole purchasing access. Anything above $2,500 requires both partners. I'm bringing the accountant in weekly until we're stable. He'll say I turned you against him. I'm not turned. I'm furious. At me? At myself, primarily. Him second. You are somewhere below the landlord. That sounded like Tessa. I pulled the account activity, she said. I'm sending you the record of the household transfer and the amount that reached us. You may need it. I'm not trying to destroy the studio. I know, that's why I'm sending evidence instead of sympathy. Grant came home before 6, which told me Tessa had dismissed him from a conversation he wanted to win. You called my partner, he said from the kitchen. I stayed at my desk. He appeared in the doorway, wet from the rain, his hair plastered flat in a way that made him look unusually honest. You involved Tessa in our finances. You involved our finances in the studio. It was temporary. She said the hotel deposits weren't delayed. His expression shifted. She had no right to discuss that. Did you forget to send the invoices? I was waiting on revised scopes. They were approved. You don't know the full context. I assembled the package. Exactly, you assemble things. That doesn't mean you understand how the business works. I looked at him for a long moment. He turned away first. Mom is transferring the roof money Thursday, he said, after you sign the access agreement. It isn't a deed. She can't sell the house. She wants to know she won't be locked out every time you're upset. I locked her out once, after she tried to demolish my pantry. You keep using the most dramatic language possible. What word do you prefer for men with pry bars? She has rescheduled the photographer for Saturday, a small gathering. Arthur, a few friends, no catering. It will be over by 6. No. I signed the agreement. I didn't. The house came through my family. The mortgage comes through both of us, which you let bounce. I stood. He had been saving that line. I could tell by the clean delivery. You emptied the account. And you watched the payment fail when you could have stopped it. If you're trying to prove we're equal, congratulations. We are equally responsible. He went upstairs before I could answer. Saturday arrived bright and sharp after 4 days of rain. At 10, I set the original pantry drawings on the maple worktop beside Ellis's repair invoice. Grant's family use agreement lay on top, printed from the copy he had finally emailed me. The clause was simple. Lenore could access the property with reasonable notice for family and promotional events connected to the Bell house. I had received no notice from her. At 11:12, a black car stopped at the gate. Lenore got out with the photographer. Behind them, a white Merit Interiors van pulled up, followed by a locksmith. Grant came down the stairs, buttoning his jacket. "Please don't make a scene," he said. Through the glass, Lenore lifted one hand and showed me her copy of the agreement. Beside her, the locksmith opened his tool case. I looked at Grant's jacket, the agreement on the pantry worktop, and the locksmith waiting beside the gate. You scheduled someone to change the locks. Mom needs access under the agreement. She has access when one of us lets her in. That isn't access, that's permission. Yes, I said. Those are closely related. Grant closed his eyes briefly. Can we get through one afternoon without turning every word into a trial? You brought the witnesses. I pressed the gate release. Lenore entered first. She wore a charcoal dress and carried a garment bag over one arm. The photographer followed with 2 camera cases. Her name was Nina, and she looked younger than I expected, though the tired way she examined the house suggested she had photographed many families who thought architecture could improve them. The Merritt crew began unloading padded blankets and toolboxes. The locksmith approached the back door. "Mr. Bell." Grant stepped forward, but I said, "What work were you hired to do?" "Add an authorized user cylinder and provide 2 keys. I do not authorize any change to the locks." Grant lifted his hand. "I do." The locksmith looked between us. "You both reside here?" "Yes," I said. He closed his case. "Then I'm going to stay out of it until you agree." Lenore gave Grant a look that demanded he become more convincing. "You spoke to me on the phone," he told the locksmith. "I did. I didn't speak to her. I'm the one who hired you. And I'm the one declining the job." He lifted his case. "There's no charge." Lenore waited until the gate shut behind him. "This is precisely why the agreement was necessary." I picked up her copy from where she had laid it on the island. "This gives you access with reasonable notice. It does not give you your own lock. You received notice." From Grant. 48 hours after he signed it. "I'm standing in the house, Mara. I would rather not waste our guest's time debating whether I can enter it." "You're right." That answer disoriented her more than resistance would have. Arthur came through the back door carrying a cardboard tray of coffees and wearing a tie with small blue sailboats on it. He looked at the toolboxes, then at me. Did I miss the peaceful portion? "It was brief," I said. He handed me a coffee. My name was written correctly on the lid. Lenore took the garment bag from her arm and gave it to him. "Please hang this in the guest room." Arthur studied her face for a second. "I'll keep it with me." 2 couples arrived behind him, friends of Lenore's whose names were already in my catering binder. Nina began photographing the sunroom while Lenore described the glass walls as Grant's grandfather's commitment to modern living. She did not mention that 3 panels had leaked until I found a company willing to fabricate replacement seals. Grant stayed near Nina, adjusting objects before each shot. He straightened the green glass key bowl, moved it 2 inches, then moved it back. The Merritt foreman spread his drawings across the island. "Mrs. Bell," he said to Lenore, "we can remove the interior units today, but the electrical disconnect for the wine refrigerator needs to be confirmed before fabrication. Grant can approve that." I walked over. Their rendering showed my pantry transformed into a display case. Glass doors revealed rows of identical cream dishes. Open shelves held 3 copper pans and a bowl of artichokes. There was no flour, coffee, pasta, toaster, mixer, or place to put the bulk package of paper towels Lenore insisted I buy before every dinner. The foreman pointed toward my shelves. "We were told the room would be cleared. It won't be." Grant came to stand beside me. "We can move everything into the laundry room." "There's no shelving in the laundry room. It's temporary." Lenore joined us. "The photographs need to show progress. We can style around unfinished sections." Nina lowered her camera. "I was told the kitchen renovation was complete. It will be presented as a sensitive update," Lenore said. "I'm not photographing active demolition with guests in the house. It won't take long." The back door opened again. Ellis entered carrying a small case of finishing tools. He had returned to apply the final protective coat over the repaired chip, work we had scheduled after the filler cured. He stopped when he saw the Merritt blankets. "Busy morning," he said. Lenore smiled as though she had arranged his arrival. "Excellent. You can help them begin." "I'm here to finish a repair." Grant's patience broke. "Ellis, please. We've wasted enough time on this. Do exactly what Mom wants." It was the same sentence he had used Tuesday. The Merritt foreman reached for the first pantry door. Ellis set down his case and put one hand over the hinge before the man could lift it. Then he looked at Grant, at Lenore, and finally at me. "Whose authorization governs this room?" Nina's camera hung silent against her chest. Grant pointed at the agreement. Mine does. It's my house. Ellis looked at the papers. That's an access agreement. It's not a work authorization. Lenore's face sharpened. Mr. Ward, your role here is not to interpret our private documents. You're right. My role is to interpret mine. I brought the original renovation drawings from the Pantry and placed them beside Merritt's rendering. My initials ran down every page. Ellis's contract was clipped behind them, followed by his repair invoice and photographs of the chipped door. The Pantry stays, I said. Ellis is authorized to seal the repair, nothing else. Grant stared at the documents. You staged this. I organized it. You invited Ellis here knowing Mom was coming. Ellis was scheduled before I knew about the photographer. His appointment is in our shared calendar. Grant pulled out his phone, opened the calendar, and found it. The small defeats seemed to hurt him more than the large ones. Lenore turned to the Merritt foreman. My son is authorizing the removal. The foreman looked unhappy. Our deposit covers design development. We can postpone site work until the household authorization is clear. There is no lack of clarity, Lenore said. I withdraw my authorization, I told him. He began rolling up his drawings. Grant stepped between him and the island. Wait, if the deposit needs to be increased, we'll increase it. With what? I asked. Mom's transfer clears Thursday. Lenore's eyes flicked toward him. That was all I needed. There is no transfer Thursday, I said. Neither of them answered. The mortgage money paid Merritt's deposit, I continued. You signed the access agreement because Lenore said she would fund the roof, but she hasn't transferred anything because she's waiting to see whether you can make me cooperate. Lenore set her handbag on the counter. I am waiting until the conditions we discussed are met. Grant stared at her. You said it was processing. I said I had initiated arrangements. You said Thursday, and today is Saturday. After today, everything can proceed. Grant looked toward the pantry. The crookedness was gone, but the small scar remained near the lower hinge. Just let them take the doors, he said to me. That's enough for the photographs. There was desperation in his voice now. It would have been easier if he sounded cruel. No, Mara. No. He pressed both palms against the island. Do you understand what happens if she doesn't transfer that money? Yes. The roof needs replacing. The mortgage is behind. The studio cannot pay back what I moved this month. Yes, and you're willing to lose this house over cabinets. Nina turned slightly away, giving us the privacy of her profile. I took a folder from beneath the renovation drawings. I'm willing to stop paying for a house where my consent is treated like an obstacle. Grant did not touch the folder. Inside was a list of the household expenses, what each of us had contributed, the bounced mortgage notice, and a proposal to separate our finances. I had included the names of 3 mediators and a deadline for him to speak with the lender about carrying the house without my income. If you want to preserve the house as Bell property, refinance the mortgage and take responsibility for it, I said. We'll document what happens to the renovation money and the equity. If you can't qualify or don't want to carry it, we sell. Lenore stared at me. You cannot force Grant to sell his grandfather's house. I'm not forcing him. I'm refusing to finance it. You're his wife. I am the person he expected to pay the mortgage after he emptied the account. Grant opened the folder. I watched him see the numbers in a format he could not charm. This is a separation agreement, he said. It's a proposal. You've already decided. I decided I won't keep doing this. What is this? I pointed to the 2 sets of pantry drawings. This. Your mother redesigns a room. You approve it. I stop her, so I become the problem. She withholds money. You move mine. The mortgage fails, and somehow I'm supposed to rescue the house to prove I love you. Arthur set the coffee tray down. Lenore turned on him. Would you please take our guests into the garden? Arthur did not move. They've gone. I hadn't noticed them leave. Nina lifted one of her cases. I have enough exterior images for the editor to review. I'll need to speak with the homeowner before any interior material is submitted." "You are speaking with him," Lenore said. Nina looked at Grant and then at me. "I'll speak with both residents." She left her card on the island and followed the Merit crew outside. Lenore waited until the van pulled away. "This article mattered to your husband." "So did the pantry. I'm not talking about shelves. Neither am I." For the first time, she raised her voice. "I am trying to keep him from losing everything." Grant looked up from the expense sheet. Lenore pressed on. "The studio was his chance to make something that didn't depend on this house. Now the studio is weak, the roof is failing, and you choose this moment to withdraw." "I didn't create the weakness. You made it comfortable for him to ignore." The sentence struck cleanly because it was true. Grant looked from her to me. "Stop talking about me like I'm not here." Lenore's expression softened immediately. "Then handle it." He looked at the pantry, the agreement, the folder, Ellis waiting quietly with his finishing case. "Can you transfer the roof money without the article?" he asked her. "It was never only about the article." "Without access." "Grant, can you?" Lenore picked up her handbag. "Call me when you're prepared to discuss this without an audience." Arthur left the garment bag on a dining chair and followed her out. Ellis waited a few seconds. "Still want the finish applied?" "Yes," I said. Grant let out one broken laugh. "Of course you do." Ellis knelt beside the lower hinge and opened his case. The roof money did not arrive Thursday. Grant paid the missing mortgage amount by selling 2 vintage chairs from his studio collection. Tessa required him to record the sale and the household loan in the studio books. He resented her for 3 weeks, then began arriving early enough to send his own invoices. He bought groceries badly. We ended up with 6 limes, no onions, and a box of cereal neither of us liked. I did not fix the order. The next week was better. He scheduled a marriage counselor. He gave me the access agreement with void written across every page and returned Lenore's garment bag unopened. He also asked, during our second session, whether I would reconsider selling if Lenore paid for the roof with no conditions. The counselor asked why that mattered. Grant said, "Because if we lose the house, what was all of this for?" He meant the work. He also meant the marriage. I looked at him and understood that his remorse was real. So was his fear. He was sorry he had handed his mother my place, but part of him still wanted me to stand there long enough to keep the roof over his head. "I don't know how to trust you only after I make disloyalty expensive," I said. We separated before winter. The house went on the market after Grant learned he could not refinance it alone. Lenore offered to buy out my contribution if Grant granted her permanent event access. He refused, though he told me about the offer as if refusing it should change my decision. It did change something, just not enough. A couple from Richmond bought the glass house in early spring. During the final walkthrough, one of them opened every pullout in the pantry and called for the other to come see how the baking trays were stored. "We hope you're leaving this," she said. "All of it," I told her. Grant stood in the kitchen with his hands in his coat pockets. When they went to inspect the sunroom, he touched the scar near the lower hinge. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know." This time, I believed him without mistaking belief for repair. I took the original drawing with my initials from the worktop. The green glass key bowl went into Grant's box. He had chosen it too once, and I no longer needed every shared object to become evidence for either side. The brass scoop fit in my purse. In my new kitchen, the pantry was one narrow cabinet beside the refrigerator. Coffee took the top shelf, rice the middle, flour below. There was no room for labeled rows or cases of wine or supplies for dinners someone else had promised. On my first morning there, I opened the rice jar and found the brass scoop exactly where I had placed it. I measured 1 cup, leveled it with my thumb, and listened to the grains fall into the pot,